The person you see in front of you is Vice Presidential-elect Mike Pence. And this guy is dangerous, and possibly more dangerous than a lot of us realize. Once Donald Trump and he are sworn in January, this guy will be next in line to become president of the United States if for some reason Donald Trump either gets impeached, which is highly likely given the mixture of his business interests with the potential to use the office of the presidency in order to enhance those business interests, or if by some miracle, no, I shouldn't say miracle, if by some happenstance that Donald Trump happens to vacate the office either voluntarily or involuntarily. Mike Pence is going to do an interview, obviously, on Face the Nation, and he basically doesn't answer a single question that is posed to him. And for the most part, he basically takes a question and turns it into a different direction. And even when pushed a second time to answer specific questions, he does not do so. Here is the interview that he did Sunday morning.
And Vice President-elect Mike Pence. Mr. Vice President-elect, I want to start. Are there going to be any announcements today on staffing?
I think that's yet to be seen, John, and good to be with you this morning. We're here at Trump National after a brisk day yesterday, but I have to tell you, to be able to have the opportunity to help lead this transition effort, to be sitting shoulder to shoulder with our President-elect as he's talking to men and women of extraordinary backgrounds and capabilities, of putting this administration together, building the agenda, being there when he's talking to leaders around the world has been deeply inspiring. And I think every American would be inspired by the leadership that our President-elect has shown from literally hours after this election was called.
And Mitt Romney as a possible Secretary of State, is that right?
That's absolutely right, John. And I know the President-elect was very grateful that Governor Mitt Romney came here to New Jersey yesterday. We spent the better part of an hour together with him, and then I know that the two of them actually had some private time together. I would tell you that it was not only a cordial meeting, but also it was a very substantive meeting, and I can say that Governor Romney is under active and serious consideration to serve as Secretary of State of the United States.
Now, excuse me, I think that's a bullshit line. I think Donald Trump is basically throwing camouflage out there because the more coverage this Secretary of State position gets, the more people that this guy wants to interview. So I'm totally discounting the fact that Romney came with hat in hand to kiss the ring of Donald Trump. Donald Trump's got a habit of letting people kiss his ring and then kicking them to the curb.
Let me ask you about some work you've done in the transition since taking it over. You've moved out some lobbyists, and in keeping with that, Donald Trump told me a couple of months ago that he would have no problem with having no lobbyists and no major donors in his administration at all. Do you think he'll be able to keep that promise?
Well, I think the American people want to see a change in Washington, D.C. There's been heartbreak and disappointment when it's over recent years and frankly successive administrations where we've seemed to see an inability for Washington, D.C. to get anything done, and the President-elect is absolutely determined to build an administration with women and men who bring that fresh perspective and a determination on doing the people's business and not the business of special interest. And so, as you know, we made changes as soon as I took over the transition effort. We made changes. We moved lobbyists out of the transition team, and that's going to continue to be a lodestar. And I can tell your viewers that the President-elect is determined to move ethics reform in the next year in the Congress of the United States.
All right, he just Mickey Mouse that. It is true that some of the lobbyists that were surrounding Trump were removed, but not all. Principal among them, Rudy Giuliani. He is a lobbyist. He has lobbied for foreign countries. He's taken money from foreign countries, and Giuliani is still in the fold. You also have the director, or actually his main assistant for national intelligence. His companies also lobbied, and in particular, he's lobbied for individuals in Russia.
A lot of people around the country want to see us drain the swamp. They want to see fundamental ethics reform. That's going to happen starting January the 20th.
So just to button that up, so no lobbyists or donors in the administration as he promised, that's right?
Well, I think what the president-elect has made clear is that we're going to have people in the administration who are 100% focused on serving the American people and moving the Trump agenda forward. And to sit with him in these interviews that have been taking place over the last week, to sit with him with congressional leaders, as the two of us did a week ago, is to see someone who's completely focused on keeping the promises that he made to the American people. And I got to tell you, it's really been inspiring to be standing shoulder to shoulder with our president-elect even in these few short days since that historic election.
But that doesn't quite sound like a yes to me. So it seems like there's some wiggle room on the no lobbyists and donors. So we'll look for some clarity on that to come. But let me add.
Right, John Dickerson picked that up, that he definitely left a whole lot of wiggle room as far as having lobbyists in the administration.
Ask you about this question. The Wall Street Journal has asked that Mr. Trump liquidate his holdings with his business. Will he?
Well, I saw that editorial. What I can tell you is that I'm very confident that the president-elect and his extraordinary talented family are going to work with the best legal minds in this country and create the proper separation from their business enterprise during his duties as President of the United States. To be around him is to be around a man who is completely focused on the people's business, and to get to know his...
That's bullshit. He met with some of his partners from India on a real estate project that they're working on. So if he was all that completely focused, why did he have a meeting with those guys? And as far as him sitting with all of the best legal minds to come to a decision, the only possible decision would be for him to completely divest himself of anything to do with his companies, because he can have his kids run the companies or even a third party run the companies, but he's still going to know where his operations are in the, I believe it's 17 different countries that he has businesses in. So just having somebody else run it, that doesn't wash, because he can have relationships that have a direct impact on how well or how poorly his companies do, not only in the United States, but in foreign countries.
Children is to get to know men and women of extraordinary capability who I know he's confident that they can lead the business enterprise while he puts all of his energies, all of his focus in the people's business.
Should employees of the Trump businesses be involved at all in the people's business, in government business meetings?
Now that was a sharp question, because that refers to the meeting that he took with the Japanese Prime Minister, where he had both his daughter and his son-in-law attend the meeting. Now, if they're supposedly going to be involved in running the business, what are they doing sitting in a meeting that had political implications?
Well, I think during this transition, it's very helpful.
How about during the presidency?
For the president-elect to. Oh well, I think during the presidency there will be the proper separation. I can just assure all of your viewers that to be around President-elect Donald Trump now is to be around someone who, while he has built literally one of the most prosperous businesses in the country.
We don't know that because we still haven't seen his tax returns. So until we can see the tax returns, number one, we're not going to know all the ins and the outs of his business and truly how profitable his businesses are and what pressures can be placed upon those businesses by foreign entities.
He's a man who's spending all of his energies and all of his focus on that agenda that he campaigned on, and it's about bringing personnel together. We'll have more extraordinary men and women here in New Jersey today who are under consideration for positions of enormous import, but it's also about laying out the policies that we're going to start on day one in this Congress to implement. And the President-elect has already made the decision, and in conversations with the Republican leaders in the House and Senate, that we're going to lift the extraordinary burden of Obamacare off the backs of the American people and off the backs of American businesses. Repealing Obamacare will be the first priority in a session that will be characterized by tax reform, rebuilding the military infrastructure,
Mr. Vice President, I guess
ending illegal immigration, and that's where we're focused.
here's the question for a candidate who worked so hard and made such a strong point. It was about draining the swamp, about the Washington culture of self-dealing. You'd expect brighter lines in terms of the private business and the presidency. If a foreign country, for example, does business with the Trump industries, would we expect to see that notified, with a notification of that? Because you could imagine somebody trying to do business with the Trump family as a way of getting in good with the Trump president.
John, what I can assure you and all of your viewers is that all of the laws pertaining to his business dealings and his service as President of the United States will be strictly adhered to. And he...
Okay, see, that's the problem when you're dealing with a lawyer. They know how to recite a dictionary without actually answering the question. Now, the actual answer to that question should be that there are no laws that actually govern the behavior of the President of the United States as far as his own personal business is concerned. He is the only elected official in the government that can maintain personal businesses without having to divest them. Everybody else, all members of Congress, all elected officials, all confirmed officials as far as nominations, everybody else has to divest themselves of any business that has anything to do with their actual position. The only one that does not apply to is the President of the United States. So when he says that Donald Trump will conform to all the laws of the country, he's absolutely right, because there's nothing for Donald Trump to conform to. There are no laws regarding his position and operating businesses.
He set that tone from the very beginning. But the other part is just, I'm very confident that we will operate an administration that is above reproach with regard to all of those issues. One of the reasons why I believe Donald Trump won a mandate for leadership is because he wasn't a career politician. He spent an entire lifetime as a builder, creating jobs, building a business enterprise, and the American people said yes to bringing...
Yeah, and excuse me, he spent a lifetime screwing employees, shareholders in failed businesses, and contractors that worked within the businesses. So yeah, he spent a lifetime doing that as well.
A builder and a business leader into the White House. We'll create the proper legal separation above reproach as he goes forward. And I promise you, President-elect Donald Trump is today, and President Donald Trump after January 20th is going to be completely focused on the people's business, and he'll leave his business life in the past.
Let me ask you a policy question. Senator John McCain is worried about waterboarding. The Kansas Congressman Mike Pompeo, who's going to be going to the CIA, supports Mr. Trump's position that perhaps waterboarding should come back. Let's listen to what Senator McCain said.
I don't give a damn what the President of the United States wants to do or anybody else wants to do. We will not waterboard. We will not torture. My God, what does it say about America if we're going to inflict torture on people?
What's your response to that?
Well, I have great respect for Senator McCain, and what I can tell you is that going forward, as he outlined in that famous speech in Ohio, that a President Donald Trump is going to focus on confronting and defeating radical Islamic terrorism as...
Okay, he's not going to answer the question, okay? And he's going to leave a lot of wiggle room as far as waterboarding is concerned. So all he had to do was say, yeah, Senator Kaine is correct, and we will not waterboard. But of course, that's not what Donald Trump said. Donald Trump said that he would waterboard and do worse. And that's on tape.
As a threat to this country. And we're going to have a president again who will never say what we'll never do.
And that was his opening. We will never say what we'll never do, which leaves the door open for waterboarding.
I think in President-elect Donald Trump, you have someone who believes that we shouldn't be telling the enemy what our tactics or our strategies are. And I know that in conversations with some leading Americans about playing roles in our administration, we're very excited about Congressman Pompeo's role at the CIA. We're very excited to see General Mike Flynn stepping into his leadership position. The team that we assemble, the President-elect assembles at the Department of Defense, will all advise him, but the American people should know that this is a president who on day one, January 20th, is going to focus on defeating and destroying ISIS at its source and confronting radical Islamic terrorism so it can no longer threaten our people or inspire violence here in the homeland.
Now, for those of you who don't know who Mike Pompeo is, he is the Attorney General out of the state of Kansas. He's got a military background, and most military people from this country will state that they're not for any type of torture or waterboarding. This guy basically breaks the rule because he's all for waterboarding.
That waterboarding is something the United States government does not do. So the enemy already knows that waterboarding is not something the United States does. Is it going to be reassessed by the Trump administration?
Well, I think the president-elect made his views on that quite clear during the course of the campaign. And
yeah, he did make his views quite clear. He said that he would waterboard and do worse.
But as we go forward, what I can tell you is it's not going to be about a specific tactic. What I see in these meetings with the president-elect and candidates for our national security and our national defense is someone who is determined to surround himself with men and women of extraordinary background and capability. We've got real challenges around the world today, John.
Now here he goes using the buzzwords. Islamic jihadist terrorism, etc. Basically, those are words that most people will concentrate on and forget about the previous question that he was asked.
And the American people should know that President-elect Donald Trump is going to surround himself with men and women who are going to ensure our national defense. We're going to rebuild our military, but this is going to be a president that is going to be determined to destroy ISIS and to confront radical Islamic terrorism so it can no longer threaten our people here at home.
Finally, Mr. Vice President-elect, you went to see Hamilton. The actors sent a message to you at the end of the show, and part of it was, we are the diverse America who are alarmed and anxious that your new administration will not protect us. Why do you think they're alarmed and anxious?
Well, first off, I took my daughter and her cousins to the show Friday night,
and I damn sure am not going to answer that question. So I'm going to spin this as best I can.
And John, if you haven't seen it yet, it's a great show. I'm a history buff, and my hat's off to the cast and to the extraordinary team that brought Hamilton to the public. We really enjoyed being there, and yeah, I heard the remarks that were made at the end, and what I can tell you is I wasn't offended by what was said. I'll leave to others whether it was the appropriate venue to say it. But I want to assure people who were disappointed Donald Trump meant exactly what he said on election night, that he is going to be the president of all the people of the United States of America. And to see this man who's bringing this energy and this leadership to the process of assembling this team and laying out an agenda to revive our country and strengthen America at home and abroad, is to see someone who is not only a great mind but a great heart. He's got a heart for the American people, and I just want to reassure anyone, including the actor who spoke that night, that President-elect Donald Trump is going to be president of all the people, and I couldn't be more honored to stand with him.
Vice President.
Now, notice he didn't answer the question. The question was, why are so people anxious about you? Okay, and the answer to the question is, the LGBT community knows you. Okay, one of the main reasons why they are so nervous about you is because you wanted to defund HIV/AIDS funding in favor of conversion therapy. Excuse me. And that pretty much has frightened the gay community. During Mike Pence's first run for Congress, he suggested that federal money used to fund research on HIV/AIDS should instead be diverted to programs that provide assistance to those seeking to change their sexual behavior. Translation, he wanted to move the money from AIDS and HIV research to conversion therapy. And it's proven not to work. It's a controversial procedure that attempts to change the sexual preference of gay and lesbian individuals. It has been called out by the American Psychological Association as having no basis in medical fact, adding that there is insufficient evidence to support the use of psychological intervention to change sexual orientations. Certain states have already moved to ban the practice, but that didn't mean jack shit to you, because obviously you got a problem with the LGBTQ community. As I stated, this guy is dangerous. I mean, they already won the damn election and they still can't answer any questions. But I'm telling you, Trump is dangerous, but this guy is even more dangerous, because Trump is probably going to end up fighting with a bunch of the people in the Republican Party. But if something were to happen to Trump, there's going to be no fight from Mike Pence with the Republican Party, because he is in lockstep with those guys, and that's why they love him. Just in case you thought that Mike Pence only ducked and dodged questions from the moderate left, here he is on Fox News Sunday with Chris Wallace, and he does the same thing. Now, the thing about Chris that I like is, out of all the Sunday morning shows, he's probably the most forceful as far as trying to get an answer out of somebody. All right, check this one out.
Ahead of the transition, Vice President-elect Mike Pence for his first interview since the election. And Governor, welcome back to Fox News Sunday, and congratulations, sir.
Thank you, Chris. It's great to be back, and couldn't be more honored and humbled to have the opportunity to serve with President-elect Donald Trump, and to see the energy that he's brought, the leadership that he's brought to this effort since literally hours after the election was called has been truly inspiring.
As we just reported, the president-elect met with a wide range of people yesterday, everyone from Mitt Romney to Michelle Rhee. But so far, the people that he has appointed have all been loyalists and, frankly, all white men. My question, sir, is, will we see a diversity of opinion in the Trump administration? And, frankly, will we see a diversity of gender and race?
Well, clearly, the president-elect is a man who knows his mind. He knows where he wants to take this country. He laid out an agenda to make America great again, to have America standing tall in the world, to revive the American economy, and he's going to surround himself with men and women from diverse backgrounds who are going to help him move that agenda forward. But I have to tell you, to be alongside him in these meetings.
All right, and there he goes on the filibuster. And as far as surrounding him with men and women, he misspoke there. my feeling is he's probably going to have a woman, and I do mean a woman, and that woman probably won't even be in the cabinet. She'll be in some sort of a sub-cabinet position, and he may have one minority, one black person in the cabinet, but in a really minor role, like Health and Human Services or something like that.
To be here at Trump National yesterday to see men and women coming through with extraordinary backgrounds. Another round of those today. We have just been working at his direction headlong to bring together people from all across this country who will help him on day one to begin to move that agenda to really result in a stronger and more prosperous America. And I couldn't be more honored to be a part of it, Chris.
Well,
So he absolutely did not give a definitive answer to that question.
let me see if I can get you to make some news, sir. Someone close to the transition tells me that the meeting with Mitt Romney yesterday actually went better than expected, given their history with each other, and that he's now a contender for Secretary of State, although Rudy Giuliani may well be the front runner still, and that retired General James Mattis is, quote, likely for Secretary of Defense. And I want to put up a tweet that Donald Trump sent out this morning. General James Mad Dog Mattis, who is being considered for Secretary of Defense, was very impressive yesterday, a true general's general.
With a name like Mad Dog, that really instills a lot of confidence.
Sounds like he's got the job, sir.
Well, stay tuned as the president-elect works through all of those decisions.
All right, I'm going to skip past the next 5 minutes of bullshit. Hang on. All right, I felt this next particular section was really important because this is going to basically open up exactly what Pence is going to be doing. And a while ago, we had heard that Donald Trump basically just wants to be the face of the presidency, but he actually wanted the vice president to handle all of the basically day-to-day operations of the office of presidency. Here we go.
Well, let's talk about your role, because the president-elect has made you the head of the transition. You seem, from your visits, to be his main link to Congress. Some are comparing you to Dick Cheney, who played a big role in introducing another newcomer to Washington back in 2000, George W. Bush. What do you think of the Cheney comparison?
Well, I have high regard for the service that Vice President Cheney provided.
He has high regard for Darth Vader. Dick Cheney was the one that got us into those two goddamn wars. And he has high regard for him. You're probably one of the few that has high regard for him.
To the United States, but the person that will define my role is the president-elect of the United States of America.
And what has he said about my role? I mean, some people have said that he's going to be the CEO and you're going to be the COO, the Chief Operating Officer.
Did you notice he started getting frustrated because Chris has started pushing in on him? Just look at the expression on his face. He's no longer smiling.
Well, let me be very clear. President-elect Donald Trump, when he becomes President, Donald Trump on January 20th will be the one leading the Trump administration, and I'll be providing a supporting role. But I do...
Okay, and for those of you who don't know, the CEO is actually the chief executive of the company, and the COO reports to him. So the chief executive officer heads companies, and the chief operating officer is the one that does all of the grunt work.
I do think the president-elect has a great appreciation for my relationships with members of Congress. He and I both went to Capitol Hill last week and sat down with the leaders of the House and the Senate. You know, because part of this transition, Chris, is not just surrounding the president-elect with men and women from whom he can choose the personnel that will people in administration, but we're also laying out an aggressive policy agenda, working with leaders, frankly, in both chambers and in both political parties. I went back to Capitol Hill this week and not only met with Leader McConnell and Speaker Ryan, but I also was grateful to have the opportunity to sit down with Leader Pelosi and Leader Schumer. We had a substantive conversation. We're working with the majorities in the House and Senate to move forward an aggressive agenda. Decisions have been made that by the president-elect that he wants to focus out of the gate on repealing Obamacare and beginning the process of replacing Obamacare with the kind of free market solutions that he campaigned on.
Which won't work. And he's already backed up on repealing all of Obamacare because the people will go crazy if he gets rid of the section dealing with pre-existing conditions and also gets rid of the section to keep kids on their parents' health insurance until they're 26. Those are two of the most expensive sections of the ACA. And if you keep those two without keeping everything else, the whole thing basically will collapse. And you guys know it.
From there, we'll work on issues ranging from ending illegal immigration, reviving our economy through tax reform, rebuilding the military, restoring the infrastructure of this country. But I do hope to continue to play a supportive role to take President-elect Donald Trump's agenda to Capitol Hill and work with leaders, frankly, in both political parties to move the country forward and make America great again.
So, in other words, you will be operating as the chief operating officer.
Let me ask you about one potential flashpoint. We interviewed Senate Democratic Leader Schumer on Friday. He's going to be in our next segment. And he said that there's going to be a, quote, very thorough vetting of Donald Trump's choice for Attorney General, that's Senator Jeff Sessions. Back in 1986, looking at the record, Sessions was rejected by the Senate as a federal judge because of troubling actions and statements on race. And as a senator, Sessions supported rolling back the Voting Rights Act and voted against laws to protect gays and guarantee equal pay for women. The question is, are you prepared to fight Democrats to make Sessions the nation's chief law enforcement officer?
See, all of these guys, they always want to roll back to like 20, 30 years ago when Sessions got rejected by the Senate. But a lot of people fail to look at his current record. Now, that's not to say that he hasn't voted for things that would be positive, but the things that he's voted on that would be positive were basically a pimple on a whale's ass. When he voted against bills that would have helped as far as voting rights were concerned, as far as gay rights are concerned, people have obvious angst regarding his position on enforcing laws that are currently on the books and the fervor that he would employ in prosecuting people violating those things or even defending those laws, which is what the Attorney General is supposed to do. Now check out Mike Pence tap dancing around all of the issues.
I think everyone who knows Senator Jeff Sessions knows that he's going to be an outstanding Attorney General. He is a man of integrity. He stood shoulder to shoulder with our president-elect through this campaign, championing not only the rule of law, but confronting the scourge of illegal immigration. And for many Americans, this is a very anxious time relative to the Justice Department, and they know that Jeff Sessions will restore integrity there.
What about that record when it comes to race and gays and women?
Yeah. Well, I'm very confident that in the course of the confirmation hearings that his record in its totality will come out. This is a man who prosecuted the KKK.
So he prosecuted one member of the KKK. So he threw a bone. He basically threw a bone in order to try to camouflage his position. Next.
in his own home state. This is someone who demonstrated personal courage, and I think you're going to see an outpouring of support from diverse voices, including the African American community in his home state and across the country.
And no, he is not going to get a dearth of support from the African American community in Alabama, because they remember when he went after civil rights activists trying to drum up some phony charges of voter fraud. So that is going to be advertised front and center. Wrong.
I'm very confident Senator Jeff Sessions will be the next Attorney General of the United States.
During the campaign, Donald Trump attacked Hillary Clinton for blurring the lines with the Clinton Foundation. Here's what he said.
It is impossible to figure out where the Clinton Foundation ends and the State Department begins. It is now abundantly clear that the Clintons set up a business to profit from public office.
But, Governor, now there's heavy criticism from all sides about Donald Trump's intention to turn over his real estate empire to his children. And the argument is that any company, any foreign government that wants to curry favor with the president will just make a deal with the Trump organization. In fact, one top Republican said to me, this could be the Clinton Foundation on steroids. How do you deal with that?
Well, I'm very confident working with the best legal minds in the country that the president-elect and his family will create the proper separation from his business as he goes forward. But look,
there is no proper separation. The only thing that he can do, as I stated previously, is he needs to completely divest himself of the businesses, and that includes his family divesting themselves of the businesses. Anything short of that and hanky-panky can absolutely go on.
I mean, one of the reasons why Donald Trump just won a mandate from the American people
He did not win a mandate from the American people. If the election was based on total vote, he would have lost at this point by 1.6 million votes, and California still has 3 million votes to actually count, and the majority of those votes are probably going to be 2 million for Clinton, 1 million for him. So he's probably going to lose by a net of 2.6 million of votes. That is not a mandate.
Many states that Republicans hadn't won for a generation is because he brought that business background. He didn't come out of a long political career. He came out of a career building things, creating things, creating
sir, I understand.
I'm very confident. He's very confident that we'll be able to create the proper separation.
But it's not just a legal question.
I will tell you that he's completely focused on the people's business.
If I may just ask a question, sir, briefly, if his kids are running the business, and if we're talking about buildings here, if he doesn't divest himself of the business, a lot of people are saying turn it into cash, he's going to know who the kids are doing business with. In fact, there was just a meeting in the last few days with some of his business partners from India. Doesn't that create a tremendous danger of a conflict of interest?
Yep.
Well, I can tell you, in a recent interview after the election, the president-elect summed up his view of his interest in his business life with 2 words. He said, "Who cares?"
And let me sum up his interest with 2 words. He does.
And I can tell you, sitting shoulder to shoulder with him through these interviews, watching him talk to world leaders on the phone one after another from hours after the election, the president-elect of the United States, Donald Trump, is completely focused on the people's business. And I promise you, and I can assure the public that they'll have the proper separation from their business enterprise. You've met all of his kids. They are extraordinary men and women, fully capable of leading that enterprise, and I know he's gonna lead America with 110% of his focus. Fine.
Now, as to 110% of his focus, he's already met with Indian businessmen, okay, and there's a report that he spoke with the Argentinian prime minister, and they discussed business. They discussed his properties down in Argentina. Yeah, that's really having clear, defined lines between the presidency and his business. Looks a little blurry to me.
Finally, I've got about a minute left, and I got to ask you about the subject everybody is talking about today. You know what it is, and that is the fact that you went to see the Broadway musical Hamilton on Friday night. And afterwards, the cast addressed you as you were walking out of the theater about their concerns as to whether Mr. Trump will protect diversity in our nation. Here he is.
We truly hope that this show has inspired you to uphold our American values and to work on behalf of all of us.
Now, Saturday morning, Mr. Trump tweeted this: the cast of Hamilton was very rude last night to a very good man, Mike Pence, apologized, and he tweeted about it again at 6:23 this morning. Governor, what did you think of the cast comments, and did you consider it rude?
Now, he's going to give the same rehearsed response that he gave on Face the Nation.
Well, first off, my daughter and I and her cousins really enjoyed the show. Hamilton is just an incredible production, and incredibly talented people, and it was a real joy to be there. And you know, when we arrived, we heard a few boos and we heard some cheers, and I nudged my kids and reminded them that's what freedom sounds like. And but at the end, I did hear what was said from the stage, and I can tell you, I wasn't offended by what was said. I'll leave to others whether that was the appropriate venue to say.
All right, so basically, it's the same rehearsed response that he gave to John Dickerson on Face the Nation. This guy is dangerous. I'm just telling you. You are never going to get a straight answer out of this guy on anything.